Can you guys hear me? It's always a crapshoot, says the crap childhood fairy, if my microphone works. So I'm live. I just need to know. All right, we're in business. Hey, everybody. It's so good to be back. I was away. I was in Europe for a really long time. And so long that I was coming back and doing this live call, I couldn't even remember how to do it. So I'm super excited. There's something about when I'm connecting with you guys and we're talking about CPTSD together, it's the juiciest, best part of my work. So happy to be here. This is a Q&A call. I'm going to be here for an hour. I'm going to take your questions. I've got Harry here moderating, and hi, L Craft Crafts. Is it iCraft? I can't tell. And Anaphylaxis. That's a good punk name. And Hanu and Hey Roy and Amor Fati and Mr. Shadow Kitty and Mary Pedersen and Susie Barlow and Casey Barrero and Free Being and Gail Sutton and Joey MCD and Catherine Poton, if I'm saying that right. Welcome, you guys. You get to start putting questions here in the chat roll. That's how we do it. And Harry's going to give them to me on we're sharing a document where he shows me what the questions are. And today, this is kind of turning into a really fun custom, but if you join the call, you get to have the coupon code today to get, and you're here. If you're hearing this, you get 25% off any course or membership. And this was we had a deal on membership at the beginning of the month for the 4th of July, and it ended. So if you missed that one, this is your chance to get 25% off, not just the membership, but any course. You can't get monthly membership on that coupon, and you can't get a coaching program, but anything else you can have. The coupon code is 25 today, 25 TODAY, 25 today. And Harry will put the links to membership and some courses in the chat roll there, and he'll probably do that again a little later. So there you go. Harry's got the coupon code. And Harry, if you would put the link to the membership, people can access that now. So great. I see the questions are starting. I'm going to be shooting some more videos later today. And so something I'm going to try to do today, if it seems a little awkward, I'm going to try to read your question and then I'm going to answer it, because I'm hoping that I can use the recording of me answering the question as a video and cut it up. I tried, like last time I did a live, it didn't work because my microphone wasn't on. My good mic. This is my good mic, and it's like really loud right now. Is it like the right mic today? Oh, Geraldine 21 in Sweden. Hi there. I'm half Swedish, you know. Oh, and Norway, Rusty Spike. Yeah. Hi. I was almost in Norway. My son and I were on our way to Norway on July 3rd, but no go. They were not open yet to us. We had to be EU, and we were not. And I tried. And so we're so sad because a lot of stuff that we plan to do there, like we paid for already, we don't get the money back. But we're going to come back because my mom's Norwegian. My dad's Swedish. My mom's Norwegian. And I'll be over there before you know it. Hopefully this crazy time will be over very soon. Austria. Cindy, Austria. I was there. Salzburg and Vienna. I happen to love Salzburg, and particularly I like the potato cream soup over there. Big fans. And Harry here. Harry and I were in Salzburg about 4 years ago, and I was just there again a couple weeks ago. So this, when I come back to Europe, I'll be doing some live events there, and we're going to get together, and it's going to be great. It was very hard to organize this time because in most countries you couldn't really book an indoor space. So it's coming. Hey, Canada, how you doing? Nice to see you. Bunch of Canada. And middle Georgia, where it's so hot. All right, I'm coming over to the questions now. Let's see what we've got here. All right, Meryl Walkley says, I can't get over my parents never showing me much love or affection, never saying love you, and they're past now. Okay, Meryl, I'm glad you said that. I know the feeling. My parents are gone too, and there was a whole lot of stuff missing, but I am over it, and I want to put right in front of you, you can get over this. I'm so sorry you didn't get it when you were a kid and when it would have been there to help shape your brain and your development. So I totally understand that there's a wound there. But it does not make sense to continue to identify with that wound, and I would just advocate, like, with everything you've got, just say, "Yep, I'm a person who got wounded, just like a person who loses a limb. I didn't get a certain thing when I was young, but I'm not gonna let that define me now." And that's not the same as denial. We're not denying that it happened, but just and I'm not somebody who believes, like, you directly create your reality with your words. I mean, some people believe that, but when you say, "I can't get over my parents never showing me much love," I think you might wanna rephrase that as, "I haven't yet gotten over my parents never showing me this, but I wanna get over it because even if your parents were alive, the nature of these relationships with parents who didn't give love is they don't tend to recover enough to come through and apologize and say the loving thing. And I'll tell you one of the things so there's a lot of stuff that never got said between my dad died when I was 15. He was pretty loving, but he also was abusive and alcoholic. He was abusive to other family members, not me. So it was a complicated kind of relationship. And he got Lou Gehrig's disease when I was 13. He died when I was 15. And before that, my mom remarried and moved us out of state, and I didn't get to see very much of him. So I have this like gaping daddy wound, from that. And it really has shown up in the way I do relationships, but it doesn't show up anymore. I've had so much healing around that. And one of the things that's helped me heal is with my own kids and also with people where I'm in anything like a sort of like a generation up role. We have family friends who I'm very close with. And then also with some of you, like some people write to me and who are young. And they say, I wish, some people say, I wish you were my grandma. And I'm like, well, hold on. Mom, maybe. But technically, I'm old enough to be a grandmother, but only of like an 8-year-old. So probably they wouldn't be here. But I play a maternal role for people, and one of the things that I do is because I know that I have a direct line to the nervous system of people who look up to me and care about what I think, is I validate them. And when we validate other people, we complete that circle of invalidation, which is kind of the essence of what happened to you. If they weren't like, "I love you, you're so good as you are, you're Meryl, you're a darling, and I believe in you." And since you didn't get that then, you can participate in that giving by giving it to other people. And every once in a while, people are going to give it to you. But I will say, I don't, I still, I think because I have that wound, I have not built a life that's really, really like loaded up with people giving me that validation. But I do have a loving husband. I have great kids. It came. Now, some people like maybe you're not, maybe you are a single person, maybe you are not going to be having kids, but you always have people in life who need your validation. And here's what you do: you pay attention to what they're working on. You say, "How's that going? Wow, I'm so proud of you." And it's surprising. There's a writer at the Wall Street Journal who is an acquaintance of mine, and he writes about trauma as well. His name's Lee Hawkins, and we had this long phone conversation once recently when we were getting to know each other and talking about our past and what we're working on. And he said, "I'm so proud of you." And I look up to him because he's, a very accomplished writer. And he said he was proud of me, and I just about started crying, and I realized how powerful those words are. And so I'm not stingy with those words. I don't lie to people about it, but when I think they're doing something great, I let them know. And every time I do that, it kinda keeps reinforcing that healing of the wound that I got from not getting that validation. And I got it bad. I try not to talk about it very much because when I talk about it, I don't know, I just sort of reactivate it. I'm not in denial about it. Like, I've taken pages and pages and pages of fears and resentments about it, but I still have the capacity to get identified with the bad stuff that happens, and that's not a very empowered place for me. So I just try to remember, yeah, I'm somebody who, I feel good about myself. I went through that experience. I got stronger from it. I try to help other people with it. Like, we can all be that person, and it feels good. Feels good. It's a more healed place. So, yeah, parents people with living parents struggle a lot. I think in a way, sometimes it's simpler when they've already died. So they struggle with, should I go home? And what if they're never gonna give me that validation and go, "You did a good job," or "I really appreciate how you handled something." Maybe it's not gonna come. It's okay if it doesn't come. You can make it. And I wouldn't take all your power to heal and put it on anybody else and wait for them to do something. It can't work that way. We can't wait. We got to start like healing that in ourselves. So I hope that helps you. All right, Meryl. So next, I have a question. Here's a question from Christina Jackson. Christina asks, how do I best handle it when a friend or acquaintance judges you and says, you should forgive your mother? And Christina says, what about me? So let me see if I understand the question. How do I handle it when a friend or acquaintance knows that you're resentful at your mother and thinks that you should forgive her and is not showing understanding or validation about what you went through? I think I'm rephrasing that in a way that understands that. I think I understand that. All right. I'm going to phrase that again so maybe we can use this piece of video. All right. Christina asks, how do I handle it when a friend asks me, uh, how do I handle it when a friend judges me and says I should forgive my mother, but doesn't pay attention to what happened to me? All right. That is really common, Christina. um, how to recover. And Christina also said, how to recover my nerves in public. Okay, hold on, Harry. Don't move the question till I'm done answering it, okay? I got to hang out with this question a little bit. Thanks. All right. All right. So this is really common. I get this a lot from people, and people want you to forgive the person who abused you. And people have a number of motivations for that. One is they have no idea what actually happened, and they are judging you and believing that the problem is you. Another scenario is they know the current present time version of the person who hurt you, and they know that that person is remorseful and really wants a better relationship, and is finding that you have a wall around you and somebody's trying to assist in helping you repair that relationship. And I'm not like putting anything on you because I don't know your situation, and if you have something else to add, you can add it and Harry can paste it up here where I can see it. Or it could be, and this is going to be really triggering for people, so just get ready. But sometimes some people are being unforgiving and it's not necessary, in my opinion. I think that sometimes when we hold a grudge against somebody, I'll just address that case. I know it's not everybody, it's not even most people, but sometimes the way a person handles their trauma is they slam the door and they say, I'm never going to deal with this. I'm never going to look at it. I'm going to make this person bad and unforgivable. And I don't care how much they want a relationship with me. So here's another perspective on that. I'll start there and then I'll work my way back to the other ones. It's a tragedy when parents and children are separated like that. I had a really difficult relationship with my mom. There were many times when I cut off contact for a while. She died, and when she died, I didn't yet have any healing. It's fun, probably not a coincidence, but I learned the daily practice in the same couple of weeks that she died, and it was after she last had lucidity, after we last had a conversation, and she was really rejecting. She wouldn't say she loved me or anything the last time I saw her. I said it to her. It was so painful. But I was really angry at her, and a lot of where I was coming from with her, and a lot of the professional help I was getting at that time in my life was encouraging me to confront and tell her all the things that she had done. You were drunk. You didn't protect me from abusers. You know, you had no idea what was going on. You judged me. You didn't validate me. All this stuff that I was just hitting her all the time with it, and especially with her drinking. And she was dying of lung cancer that was complicated by esophageal breakdown that was from the drinking. And she wasn't even expected to live a couple of months when this was diagnosed. And she lived 2.5 years. And it was 2.5 years of me going, oh, for God's sakes, stop drinking. Why are you drinking? And I was so angry at her. And then later I went to Al Anon and learned a completely different way of responding to that. And I wish I'd had time. But I forgive her for drinking now because I understand better. And usually when when forgiveness comes to visit me, it's more like something that comes to visit me. I can't manufacture it. But when forgiveness arrives in my heart, it comes along with a better understanding of something. There was something I didn't understand, and what I don't understand usually in the middle of some horror show with people is how much they just don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing, and I get to a place where my life is so good and so much time has passed, and I totally know what it's like to not know what you're doing, that I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not putting pressure on anybody to forgive, though. The idea that, like, "You should forgive." I do, though, understand, like, relatives and friends wishing for the best for people and wishing that people would be amended and healed around that stuff. But I also understand when the person who has perpetrated the abuse has done no self-reflection, is really just wanting the person to come around and be forgiving so it looks good, or because it would be convenient for Christmas, or, that sort of thing. Like, in your heart when that's the case too, and you're under no obligation to kiss butt on somebody who's just playing that game with you. But even if the perpetrator is just an idiot and they have no healing at all and they're still in their crap, before your life is over, I just hope for you that you find peace with it and you stop being driven by it and identified with what happened at the very least, to sort of release your hold on that memory, even if you're not in any way letting another person off the hook. You don't have to. You don't have to. But sometimes I have found in my own experience people I never thought I could forgive. It's just like forgiveness comes. It just comes, and I just don't hold that grievance in my heart anymore, that hatred for them anymore. But like I said, it's nothing I could ever force. I write my fears and resentments twice a day, every day. And usually it doesn't feel like anything. Usually nothing spectacular happens. I follow it with meditation. It's usually pretty tedious. It's just something I do, like brushing my teeth. But over time, I'll tell you, I just have a lot less um, belief, attachment into the story about, like, I was this innocent kid. I was hurt. I was an innocent kid. I was hurt. I was neglected. I was abused. There were some other good things too. But that's what happened to me is not the whole story, and it's not who I am. It's not my identity. My identity is so much bigger than that. And I kind of hope for everybody here that if you've been through a lot of suffering with your trauma, that you heal so much that you're able to be there for somebody who's still, like, in that dark place, still stuck in it, and say, because when you've been through it, you can approach somebody like that and you can say, I totally understand. And you would not be on this call with me if you hadn't even heard in a video, we didn't even have a one-on-one conversation. But when I told you my experience, you knew that I understand. And I could only understand because I've been through it. And I'm just so much more neutral to what happened. Every once in a while, when I experience some consequence of some shortcoming I have, I feel angry about it, and I just keep taking it back to the paper. I'm not interested in denying it. I have no dog in that fight about, like, oh, pretend it didn't happen or just think positive. That doesn't work for me. Even if it were true, it doesn't work for me. What works for me is I just write the fears and resentments on paper. The technique I teach, I'm always going to, like, keep pointing you to it. Harry can link it here. It's called the daily practice. We've got tens of thousands of people who have learned it. If you take the free course, all you have to do is sign up. You can learn it and practice it in less than an hour. It's a writing technique, very specific, and a meditation technique that's very simple, and you do them together and you see if that helps you feel better when you're wound up, or do it twice a day like me and see if it doesn't help you kind of clear up, kind of pop out of your CPTSD symptoms. I can't make any guarantee for you. I just recommend you can try it. It can't do any harm. And if you take that course, then we invite you. If you're signed up for that, we have your email and we send you these invitations. Every 2 weeks, I do a free Zoom call with room for up to 500 people to come on and do the daily practice with me. And you can ask questions. So it's a time when we can interact. And these calls are my favorite thing about doing Crappy Childhood Fairy. I love the calls. And then there's another step up. If you become a member, that costs money. The daily practice stuff is free, but if you become a member, which you can today for, I think it's $375 if you use the coupon. You get a whole year. You can access all my courses for a year, and you can come to those calls for a year. And at the end of the year, if you want to renew, you can renew and keep going with me. But that's an incredible community too. And the people who are members are very active in a Facebook group, many of them, and they do peer-led daily practice calls and support each other. And so we have group coaching calls there. It's more than a daily practice call. All I do is take questions like this, but I switch on the camera and microphone of the person asking the question so we can have a dialogue. And I record those, and if you become a member, you can watch the recordings of calls we've done in the past. And that's a really beloved part of my job. I love that. So that's kind of a long answer about forgiveness. Is just keep going, keep getting free of the fear and resentment, and then keep connecting with other people and use your mind to just sort of put a placeholder out in the future and say, it would be nice if I weren't so burdened by this belief that I'm ruined forever. All right, I hope that helps, Christina. Oh, by the way, the what about me part of your question. Hold on, I got to drink something. It's really hard for people to connect with us and support us in our trauma when we're not very healed. And that's a horrible irony. It just kind of like cuts us off and makes us isolated. So you can't go wrong with continuing to heal. And if you find other people who are using this daily practice, it's a good kind of friend to have because they understand what you're doing. And when you are connecting them, we have this thing called buddies where people buddy up and you can read them what you wrote and they can read you what they wrote and you can understand each other. It doesn't do any good to tell people about, I was so dysregulated today and I have fear of my mom and blah, blah, blah. People who don't have what we have or use the solution that we use can very easily misunderstand what we're saying. They think we're being negative or they want to talk us out of having that feeling or they want to push you to forgive. And the fastest route to being free of that resentment at your mom is it's just when there's no more fear and resentment left, there's this lovely space that is that's what forgiveness is for me. It's a space where there's no more fear and resentment. And then once in a while I'll tell you who I forgave. My brother was very abusive to me and he died. He died about 6 months after I got the daily practice and I was trying to show it to him. And our mom died in that 6 months. They died coincidentally six months apart. My mom died first, but we had some time to talk and he just said, I said, I'm in 12-step. I was going to Al-Anon. You should too. You should go to AA. And he had kind of gone, but he never really took to it. And he wrote me this letter and said, I did go to an AA meeting and I just want you to know, I'm going to do it so perfect. I'm going to be so great. He was an alcoholic and a heroin addict and he caused a lot of problems for the whole family, including me. And I loved him, but I dreaded when he called because it was usually going to be some horrible thing and trying to get money or threatening me if I didn't give it to him. And, you may have these people in your life. It was really hard. But he wrote me this letter saying, I'm really going to be different. I'm really sorry for everything I did. I'm going to be different. And I knew he probably would never be different. And I wrote to him and I said, I believe in you and thank you. And he said something like, I just want you to think well of me. And I said, I do think well of you. And I gave him that. I sincerely did. I had enough daily practice under my belt to just, and also that time in Al-Anon to learn, oh, he has this disease. He can't stop. He's totally ashamed of his behavior and he can't stop. And so I just said, I know you're good. I know you're good. And I know you're trying and I totally believe in you and I love you. And then like a week later, he died and it wasn't an overdose. He like dropped dead. Probably it was an aneurysm. They didn't even check because he was an addict. They assumed it was drugs. But then later we got the toxicology report back and it was all prescription level stuff. So who knows? I'm so glad that I gave him my blessing like that. That's a really important thing to do. And I meant it. And there was no other time prior to that I meant it. So you just gotta walk your path here and see if you can get there. Okay. So now I'm going to come to Rose. And Rose asked, do I become less needy when I like a man? Do I become less needy when I like a man? I feel like I'm too neurotic the word how. I see. Thank you, Harry. Okay, say that again. So Rose asked me, how do I become less needy when I like a man? I feel like I'm too neurotic from PTSD issues. Oh, do I understand, Rose? It's so hard. Basically, when you didn't get loved properly as a little kid, what happens when romantic feelings come up, it's like all that hunger for love and that need, and all those places where your brain is trying to put itself together, and all it needs is just like about 27 pounds of love. And then romantic love comes along, somebody barely knows you, and you're just like, "Ugh." And I'm laughing because it's so forgivable, isn't it? It's so forgivable and so understandable, and is not very attractive to other people. So it's it's a very unfortunate trait. And so basically what I learned to do to start having relationships on a different basis, because 100% of the time that needy energy of mine did ruin relationships and push people away who started out liking me. But I got needy, and my neediness, sometimes it would be like insecurity, but a lot of times it would be like anger. You didn't even call. You said you would call and you didn't call. How dare you? And it was like, well, we only went out once, and I was gonna call, but then I didn't get home till it was too late. I was gonna call you tomorrow. If you know the scenario I'm talking about. I know that a lot of people here like to debate, like, if somebody doesn't call you back, then they're just a terrible person, but that's not true. That's not true. In dating, you start out very casual and very light, and there could be long times between phone calls. And the idea that somebody should instantly call you back, that's like hooking into that unmet need for love. The best way to look at dating, if you ask me, if you want, now I'm not going to assume everybody in the world wants a committed relationship in the end, but from talking to people and coaching people in this community, I would say 95% of people, they have trouble saying marriage, but when I ask enough questions, it's like, yes, they would like somebody to commit to them forever and love them deeply for the rest of their lives, okay? So let's say that's your heart's desire. If that's your heart's desire, then the proper approach is much more scientific than just going on that emotional feeling of attraction. And I'm getting ready to tape a video this afternoon about somebody who really likes the bad boy type. And I'll be talking more about this. But if you have CPTSD, it's especially crucial to remember that attraction attraction is not 100% accurate information about who you will be happy with. And I know you know this, but I'm going to say it out loud. Attraction is some combination of pheromones, genetics, and a big dose of how your attachments formed when you were a tiny baby and a toddler. And so if you had a parent who wasn't really giving you their love or attention, maybe they died, maybe they were divorced, maybe they were high or drunk, maybe they resented having kids, maybe they had some sort of personality disorder and weren't capable of caring about another person. But usually it's because they had CPTSD and they were so preoccupied with their own problems they couldn't be present. So you if you had that, it's worth treating it like an injury, and you need a workaround. And you'll often hear me talk about an analogy of somebody who has lost a leg. So somebody who has lost a leg still gets to live life, still gets to perhaps get married, have children. They still get to even walk around because there are wonderful prosthetics out there that a person who has lost a leg could still be really active and could have a very distinguished life or a depressed life. It's just life, right? So the wound of childhood trauma is something like that. You'll never get your leg back, but you'll be able to do great things and you'll be able to do workarounds. And in fact, not having a leg is going to teach you strengths and wisdom that people who do have two legs never would have had. And how useful is that to other people who may be struggling with loss? So for dating, this is what I'm going to tell you to do. For dating with the needy thing, you start to work in a structure. So my dating course, by the way, maybe Harry can throw this link up there. My dating course is all about this. First, how you recognize when you're going into the behavior that destroys relationships, whether it's neediness and which is basically a fantasy that this person can and should give you all their emotional energy, right? All their love. So that's a bit of a fantasy. The other type of fantasy is that somebody is not being very good to you. They're being neglectful or they're trauma bonding with you. They come, oh, I love you. And then they disappear for 3 months, that kind of thing. And you go into magical thinking. of like, no, this is actually good because it's okay because, he has CPTSD. So I'm going to heal him. This sounds crazy. I sound like I'm making fun of people, but this is like practically intrinsic in so many of us who have CPTSD. It's just a loose screw. It's a way our thinking goes. It's a vestigial tale from childhood where we were dealing with, like in my case, a drunk mom. And of course, I like got this fantasy. I used to love the story Heidi, if you know that story. She rescues her grumpy old grandfather just by being cheerful. And I mean, when you're a kid, you can't possibly face that your parent won't take care of you. So you just go into this fantasy. It's like, but I'll fix them. I'll save everybody. I'll fix it. And it's just me. It's probably my fault anyway. So bravo as children that we were able to do that and preserve our spirits like that. But now we got to get rid of that behavior. We got to get rid of it. And we got to start putting on like clear-eyed glasses and go, what's happening here? And so feeling needy is not appropriate in dating. And much to my surprise, when I did get serious to learn how to properly date, I learned I learned that dating it's actually just a way to find out if somebody is the person that I wanted to marry. That's what it was. I thought dating was a way to fill up my life. I mean, I really did, not even just unconsciously. I was just like, well, I never even went on dates, honestly. I would just sort of end up with somebody, and then we were together until one of us ended it, usually them, because even when I didn't like them, I couldn't end it because my attachment stuff was too messed up, and I had to live in fear of going into abandonment melange. So I would just hang on forever and hate somebody. I would just hate them. I would treat them terribly, but not leave. So then they'd leave, and that would take care of it. So I had a lot of relationships like that. So I learned a proper paradigm for dating because I'm somebody I wanted to get married. I already had kids. I had kids without marriage and then married their dad and quickly got divorced. And we co-parented, and many of you have heard that story. But then I wanted to get married for real, to the person who loved me and would help me raise my kids the rest of the way. And so I started looking at it differently, and I knew that I had to get all that, like, sex stuff out of it for a while, that it was a coffee thing, it was a way to get to know people, and I had to really define clear values about, like, who would actually be good for me. And what was helpful for me about having kids is there were a lot of ways I would throw myself under the bus and go, "Oh, that's okay, I can put up with somebody who's an addict." Well, my kids can't. That's not okay with me. And so I would always, by putting my kids first, it would cause me to have those boundaries for myself. But all the boundaries that are good for kids were the ones I needed too, which was somebody who was stable, constant, fair, not abusive, emotionally present, financially solid. All of the things my kids needed, I needed. And so I got real about that and realized it doesn't matter if I'm attracted to somebody who's not those things. I am not going to go out with people who are not those things. There was no time. And I think in my 20s, I just thought somehow the right thing would find me if I just sort of like knocked around long enough, just doing whatever. But whatever just kept going on and on and on and on. These like, relationships that started out bad or started out good, but always ended bad. And I just kept being, not with anybody, and I hated it. I really wanted to be with somebody. So that's what it was. For me, it was a really spiritual process. That feeling of need, there was nothing you could say to it. That feeling of not being worthy, there was nothing anybody could say. There was no therapist. There was no 12-step program. There was nothing. And for me, that ended up being a really deep prayer that I did laying on my face, often on the floor in tears, and cycled through that experience, just going, God help me. I don't know how to love people. Even know who I should be with. I don't even know how to live my life. I'm worried I'm going to screw everything up for my kids. Please help. And that's 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 what really helped me get to the bottom. And there's a lot of stuff that I was able to change by my intelligence or by asking for help, but there was some stuff, from humans. There was some stuff I just couldn't touch. Couldn't even do it. I had so much shame about my past relationships and just myself and my body and everything. I just couldn't. I couldn't do better than that. And then, well, it's funny when something changes spiritually, it's like a lot can change at once, and it's such a lovely feeling. And it like never got bad again. I've had many bad things, but not like that. Not like that. So, if you're at all spiritual, I would say bring that into it and take it up a notch. If you think maybe there's something that cares about you or that causes healing in you. And there is. There's something that causes healing in you because you have skin and it's not all covered with scabs anymore from all the times you've hurt yourself, right? Your skin healed and you didn't have to know how to do that, right? I'm looking outside and there's dead grass because I'm in California and we don't water the grass. There's dead grass, but I know if I start watering it, it'll just come back just like grass. And that's how we are. We're coded. We're coded to learn to re-regulate and we're coded to learn to love. It's in there. We got to create the conditions where it can come out. We got to get out of these re-traumatizing things. And I don't know about you, but the re-traumatizing things, that was 80% of my problem. Still is. The problems that I have are mostly stuff that are just coming from old trauma reflexes. It's not my mom anymore. She died in 1994. It couldn't be that. So that need, it's hard. Who you're attracted to and what you feel like you need is very hard to come at cognitively with a plan. But that's what I advocate. You do have a plan. You do your best with that sort of practical level of giving yourself structure and rules. You get support. You might want to go to a 12-step program like Al-Anon or CODA or Sex and Love Addicts so that you get support for how you have relationships and you have people who really know the truth about what you struggle with and they can support you and you can stay honest with them when it's going on. That's very powerful. Like if you're prone to kind of go into sort of like a strange, fuzzy-headed, bad decision, stay honest with at least one other person. It's very, very effective to help you stay out of the fog and go, oh gosh, I'm making a mistake. Am I making a mistake? Yeah. Oh, okay. It's very, and you want that, there comes a time when you no longer want your own BS. You want the truth. You want to know when you're doing it again so that you can do something different while there's still time for you to have joy and find love and be appreciated for who you are and to be a loving person in a relationship rather than a bundle of nerves. Right. So yeah, if you haven't taken the dating course, come check that out. And also, I have this new program, the Connection Boot Camp. Maybe Harry could put links to those in there if you haven't. The Connection Boot Camp is my most recent and biggest course ever. And this is all about that connection wound. And it applies not just to romance, but to all people, because that seems to be the common thread here is people are triggering. People are triggering for us and we gotta like go into like a PhD program inside to start learning how to handle people, how to hang out with them and be with them and have a place for our CPTSD triggers to go and get calmed so we can keep hanging out. And gradually the calming of the triggers and the connecting with people, they support each other. The more calm you are, the more you can connect, the more connected you are, the more it calms you down. It's kind of cool like that. But you have to start somewhere. So it's a 30-day program where you get a video and a worksheet every day. And every day you're encouraged to just take one little incremental step to go talk to somebody, to get on a Zoom call that was intimidating you before, to have a conversation, and to start identifying the kind of people that you want in your life. Because most of us, when we come to healing from CPTSD, most of the cast of characters, they probably don't belong there. They might not be on your side, or maybe they do, but this is a tool to help decide who are they, who are the ones you want to keep and cultivate and meet and find, and who are the ones where it's time to kind of let go. So there's something for you. Okay, thank you for that question. All right, Gerardine, 21, asks, my main question is how to respond to adult bullies, ghosters, and other nasty people without rage and drama. Oh, well, that's easy. You just don't do people like that. If somebody is a bully, first of all, if somebody ghosts you, this was my New Year's resolution. Ghosters, I'm just not friends with them anymore. They're not friends with me on Facebook anymore. I'm just done. I went through decades, even in recovery, thinking maybe there's something I can do. And with everybody who's ever ghosted me, who I wanted back, I made an effort to resolve it. And if they couldn't resolve it, then bye-bye. I just don't want them anymore. So that's ghosters. And nasty people, I feel the same way. What I do, like, I am thoughtful about who is in my personal life. And especially, I'll tell you what, how I talked about how having kids makes you have to think about somebody other than yourself and you have to have standards. Well, I think about the people who I serve as crappy childhood fairy. And I think to myself, I can't allow myself to get all bogged down in shame and self-attack because I still hang out with people who don't treat me right. And I have those people in my life. I'm related to some of them, totally invalidating, judgmental, critical, or mostly just like don't even respond. And I've spent years like dancing around trying to fix that. And finally, actually, from working with so many of you, I'm like, oh, let's just let that go. If those people ever want to come around and make a better relationship with me, I'm sure they'll let me know. So I just let them go. And then bullies. I've had a lot of that. Used to live in a neighborhood where everybody kind of ganged up on me and others sometimes. I worked in an organization where that happened sometimes, and I've totally dealt with that. And it's really hard to leave a neighborhood or a job. There's a lot involved in it. But boy, I wish I'd done it a lot sooner than I did. Like, just don't be around that. That's the solution to that. And I know you can't do it quickly. And I think the reason we hang around is because we're not really sure, like, is it just me? Is it me? Am I just being oversensitive? And that is a good and appropriate question to ask yourself. As people with CPTSD, sometimes it is just us. And we need discernment about that. But that's where I come back to the daily practice and a person who you can be totally honest with to keep getting that feedback. Am I being unreasonable here? So and so did this. People write to me. I mean, I get 100 letters a day, and a lot of them are ones where people need discernment. And I can't always tell from a short letter what it is, but sometimes I can tell. And I'll just tell you that people like us, we err on both sides. We sometimes put up with just amazing crap and go, but isn't it just me? I'm just like, no, that's so obvious. That's them. And then we also do the other thing. We just go, oh, this person is doing this, this, and this. And we also have to watch out for when we're sort of slipping into a victim mentality where we give away all our power effectively by thinking other people are causing every problem we have. Any problem that we have, there's always some aspect of it that we have control over, and the way we have control over it is because we're causing it. So, sometimes my fault in something is just that I'm even still putting up with it anymore. So, sometimes it's very complicated why I put up with people like that, because for me, and maybe for you, if you're not being really honest about who you are because you don't feel good enough about who you are, then nobody really knows you. And in the end, they're not going to be very close to you and they're going to disappoint you. And a particular time when people disappoint you, when you have only shallow relationships, is like when you need something. You're sick, you're in the hospital, you need some help. Then you have nobody. And the people who are close to you are people who really know you and who know what you're like honestly. And I think as people with CPTSD, we sometimes backlash out of, we get so punished for being so emotional and problem-ridden and needy that we then try to shut it all down and go, I'm perfect in every way. I don't need anything. I'll just be a helper to you. Well, then we end up with the same problem. We end up alone. And that's no good. We don't want that. So, I'm shocked sometimes how nasty people are, and it's only because of social media that I know how nasty people are in their minds. And so one thing I do there is I unfollow people, and I hardly see the posts of anybody on Facebook anymore. Because if people post big sweeping generalizations and hateful stuff about people, I can't stand it. I don't trust them. And I stay friends with them because I just don't wanna create drama. Personally, I never put anything personal or vulnerable on Facebook. I mean, now, like, I'm friends with so many of you guys, and so it's just a way that I stay in touch. But we gotta ask ourselves, "Is it me?" "Is it me?" And in my case, a lot of it has been. I've been able to get to a point where I could see stuff that I was doing, patterns that I had, and that is like gold. It's gold when you find out, "Oh, this is what I'm doing." Like, right when I feel threatened, I lash out. That's what it is. That's how I'm messing up relationships. That's something you can work on. You can't really work on, like, everybody's a narcissist. I'm always suspicious when people say everybody's a narcissist. I'm like, something's up with that. Because not everybody is. And if you're surrounded with them, either you're tripping or you're really, really attracted to narcissists and you haven't set boundaries yet. So you guys can all get mad at me about that now. But seriously, if you feel like you're surrounded by them, it's on you. You've got to get out. Get out. Start changing the tune and start healing yourself so that you have perception, so that you can start to detect who's a good person. I'm going to be doing a video today. I haven't taped it yet, but it's going to be about narcissistic traits in CPTSD. Like, you notice how nobody ever goes, well, I have narcissistic traits. It's always other people. Well, of course we do. That's what CPTSD does. It's traits. It's not a personality disorder, but when you don't get yourself taken care of, you have to like suck in on yourself and like think about yourself a lot, and it rubs off on people, and it's part of what pushes them away. So it's something really positive to work on. So I'll be talking about that. All right, Stephanie Romano says, her husband was abusive. The kids learned from his behavior and now they're abusive. How do you stop this from continuing with your kids? I don't know. You haven't said how old your kids are. So I'm going to throw that back. You tell me how old they are and what do you mean abuse? And then I'll answer that one because it's a really different answer. And Harry can add that to your question there. Okay. Arabella asks, is it possible to become the person you were born as before the neglect and abuse? No, we're always evolving. We don't want to be the same. We don't want to be the same. But I think the spirit of what you're saying is can we be restored to mint condition? No, we cannot. We're going to be dented up by life. We're going to be dented up by life, and we're going to develop strengths that we never had and would never have had if this hadn't have happened. So it's okay. We roll with it. There's this idea, and I think something that's helped me a lot is traveling and some work I've done with people who were in truly terrible situations. I worked in a situation with refugees once over in Africa, and visited some places where people were in an unimaginably horrible and dangerous situation of suffering and trapped in it. And there wasn't much I could do. And I saw that and that kind of thing. Like, I know, like, we all hate it when somebody's like, you think you have it bad, but it just helped me understand, like, I see, like, human beings are given a hand of cards, and we imagine that other people have it so easy. And I don't know that I personally, I hate it when people go, but don't we all have PTSD? It's like, no, we don't. It's actually a brain injury and not everybody has it. And don't we all have trauma? It's like, well, trauma, if you define it as anything stressful, but no, we're talking about something specific that changes our brain here. And that's why we just don't even bother trying to explain it to everybody out there, but we understand each other. We're dealing with something that's a bit of a deficit, or we're disabled with it. We don't quite have the ability to process emotional experiences as smoothly as we would like. But when I got the daily practice and started doing it, I would just say that what I learned to do, while I wasn't perfect and I still I cannot defend myself or protect myself from harm or from being an idiot sometimes. Like, that still happens because I'm human. But some of the stuff that I have, the awareness that I have, is like way out there past the peers who I was trying to fit in with before I had the daily practice. And also in work, the way that it used to hold me back in work. Something that's kind of fun now is that occasionally somebody from my old work life just says, well, I was looking at YouTube and there you were. And like, what the hell, Anna? This doesn't, like, what I'm doing right now doesn't fit with the idea that they had of me because I've changed so much, but not really. It's still me. But what I've learned is how to be strong in myself and confident and not give a flying hoot what they think anymore. I don't care. So occasionally they come around, and it's nice. It's nice to reconnect with people who can see it. And a friend of mine from high school has become a fan, and like, we hadn't even seen each other, but now we talked, and like, of course we both had like matching trauma as kids. That's why we were friends. So you're always going to be a work in progress, and you're going to work with your dents. And I hope very much you're able to recover enough that you can use them to be compassionate towards others and helpful and help lift them up, because there will always be more of us who need our help. It's a pretty good gig. It's nice work if you can get it. Okay, let's see now. We have Sprouting Spirit. How to love and connect better with a healthy partner who I find less emotionally connected, mostly due to my own issues. Oh, wait. And is somebody all right. All right. We still don't have the kids information about their age. Okay. So Sprouting Spirit asks, how do I love and connect better with a healthy partner who I find less emotionally connected, mostly due to my own issues? Okay. So it sounds like you feel anxious that they're not seeming to be as emotionally connected as would make you feel secure. which is so common. I just love you for having that problem. You're one of us. And I know what it's like that even when it's a very secure situation, it can feel like it's happening. But on the other hand, we have a incredible talent for crap fitting on that. When somebody actually isn't emotionally connected, we mentally fill in the gaps. We tell ourselves stories that actually it's because of a past life, or actually it's because of their past abuse, or actually they do love you, but it's blah, blah, blah. We fit that out. So you're already in a relationship, but generally speaking, this is something in the dating course I teach. The first thing I have everybody do is write down their ideal person. Like, what will it be like when you're in the relationship that's so wonderful for you? And one of the things that was on my list when I did this was I will never doubt that I'm loved. I will know that I'm loved, and I will never doubt it. I was tired up to here with not feeling loved. And actually, in some cases, I was loved. In some cases, I wasn't. In some cases, I was with somebody who was in an addictive manner or a codependent manner, like thinking they loved me, but it sure didn't feel like love, and for good reason. Now I'm really loved. I'm really loved by somebody who's healthy. And one of the first things I did that helped me get there was to write down that that is what I need, that it needs to feel like that. And it didn't feel like that at first, because it wasn't that at first. Nobody just like walks into your life and truly loves you from, the first minute. Real love takes time, and discerning compatibility takes time. But one of the first things you can do is start eliminating people who are just not compatible by having that written down. What is a deal breaker for you? So what do you really want, and what can you not you cannot do? Many of you have heard me say this. I made a decision. I can't do addicts anymore, even if they've been clean and sober for a while. I can't do it because I just kept picking the ones who were going to relapse and did, and ended up in that drama. And it was just like my family of origin. And I just had to realize, like, I have a blind spot here. I'm going to rule that out. I just want somebody who's never had a problem. Many of you here are addicts who are in recovery or not where you want to be right now. And I love you, and I want you here, but I'm just saying I can't date you. A, because I'm married, and B, because I have a screw loose around people with addictions, and I go into a bad mental state, and I can't see up from down. So I knew that about myself, and I set some limits for myself about what it was going to have to be. They had to love my kids. They had to respect my work. They had to either be similar spiritually to me or totally okay with who I was spiritually, because I'd been with people who mocked me and had a problem with it, and that's no good. So I wrote down, and it ended up being quite a long list. You can add to your list over time as you figure out what needs to be on the list, and you don't actually have to stick to it, but it kind of helps to be clear about what that is. And so for me, I put some markers of how will I know if they're committed to me. And I got help. I had a very close friend who coached me through this in a formal fashion, who helped me discern how will I know and set markers. How much time will I give it before this turns into commitment? And could I get a second opinion where we'd all hang out and I get a second opinion on, is this guy okay, or am I misreading this? And so I got help. Smartest thing I ever did, and I'm so glad, because if this hadn't have changed for me, I would still be out there. I wouldn't be here with you. And I will say, while you don't have to have a relationship to heal or to have a happy life, that if it's your heart's desire to have one, I want you to have that. I want you to have that. And that loving relationships, whether it's with friends or partners or children and pets too, but especially with people, really loving relationships, when we can put those together, they have power to send healing back to the old relationships that can never be changed because the people are dead or hopeless, or that love is love. And get it get it where you can, and learn to be a discerner of who's an appropriate person to give your love to, and then give your love and work on it, and be willing to learn and get help, and don't just fly into old habits, because the habits of CPTSD are usually kind of prickly. They're prickly, and they tend to push away the good people. And then that's, I think, my story, why I ended up with so many people who were actively using heroin, for example, in my life, is because they weren't very picky when I was in my prickly years. They weren't very picky. They were anesthetized against my prickly personality. And so they'd put up with me. And so that's who I had. So I had to really change to start, you know, being capable of having relationships with people who required more than that. And it's an ongoing process, but it's totally worth it. I've a lot of people in my life have died, and what I've learned from them as they were dying, they all said the same thing. They were like, it's all about love. It's all about relationships. Learning to, I remember my mom said, try to get over the petty stuff. And, I just really like you to have good relationships with everybody. She was able to give that to me and tell me that. And I think about it. And I watched my own dad when he was dying of Lou Gehrig's disease. He had been like a really angry person, very intolerant, and he just totally got over all that. And he was really kind to everybody and really open to anybody he was hanging out with. And his eyes were shining. And I was shown very early what it looks like when somebody gets free of all that defensive. And he was so traumatized as a kid. He had it. And he died when he was 49. He didn't have a lot of time to work it out. He knew he was dying for 2 years and he worked it out. So proud of him. So proud of him for his growth in doing that. And I'm so grateful to him for showing me what that looked like before he died. And I was 15. I just like could barely even look at him. I was horrified and freaked out. But I remember, and it took some years for it to seep in. And I learned from him, from stuff that he taught me that had to just sort of be parked in my subconscious for a while. So I'm really grateful for that. So I wish that for everybody is that you learn to love, that you learn to be less limited by your trauma and learn to be more loving, and that you give yourself freedom to be more loving by having better boundaries, and but never to confuse boundaries with anything other than what they are, which is just a willingness to step back from things that aren't going to work for you, and to be as easy on people as you can be, and without getting so triggered that you can't function or that you end up being hurtful to other people. You don't want to do that. You want to be kind. That's the goal here, is love, and to become yourself, to become like really, really yourself. Because when you feel good about who you are, when you're okay with who you are, warts and all, and trauma experiences and all, when you're okay with that, when you made peace with that, your natural gifts have a much easier time coming through. I mean, some people who beat themselves up are able to use their gifts. Some people going through trauma right now are able to use them, but most of us, we kind of need some peace inside to discern what those are and start using them. And your gifts are the things that are given to you for the benefit of everybody. You know you have them. You're unhappy and empty until you start using them. But it's coming your way. And that's your destiny, is to start uncovering that and start using it. If you think you know what it is, give it a try. Give it a try, one little step. For me, I thought it might be, telling my story. And so I wrote a blog post, and it wasn't a very good blog post and hardly anybody read it, but it led to me sitting in this chair right now. It worked. And that was only 5 years ago. So not too bad. Not too bad. All right, let me see if I can get another one in here. We've got Elizabeth. I want to ask your opinion on hypnosis versus your daily practice and meditation techniques. I don't know. Nothing else has ever worked for me but my daily practice and meditation techniques. So I can't really vouch for that. I know some people have found hypnosis helpful, but this really like transformed me. So I do what worked, and I take in information about what works for people. Yeah, I've heard good things about hypnosis. For me, I think techniques. My favorite techniques are ones that can go with me everywhere I go. So hypnosis is something, I suppose you can kind of use it for yourself a little bit from what I know about it, but you need a practitioner, and that's not always possible. My CPTSD like comes and goes all day long, and I need tools to like keep like handling that as it comes up. So it's not mutually exclusive. Like you could benefit from both, but the daily practice and meditation is something that can just be like, I control it. I can teach it to children. I can teach it to people who are dying in a hospice. It's something very practical and easy to use that can just help like bring that comfort and ease that we need to start feeling a little better. We must feel better. All the techniques in the world that like help you, if it doesn't make you feel better right away, I think you might want to try this in addition to, or instead of, but in addition to, at least. You just got to feel better. That it's too terrible. The feeling of CPTSD is too terrible. It's intolerable. All right. cryptical envelope asks, any tips on how to break out of hurrying and ADHD so that I can establish routines like doing the daily practice? Okay, you don't wait to do the daily practice. It doesn't matter how bad ADHD is. Many people with ADHD do the daily practice, and that's what it's for. You sit down and you write, I can't focus. Fear I can't even pay attention to this. Fear I'm going to try to meditate, but fear I always end up forgetting I'm meditating and getting up and do things. No problem. You come to the daily practice exactly where you are, exactly where you are. And when you have less of these hamster wheel thoughts in your mind going, it's fear and resentment, but what it feels like is like, oh my God, that ADHD mind. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I think if I went to somebody who diagnosed ADHD and described my symptoms when I don't write and meditate, they would probably say I had it. Very thinky, very hard time focusing. And I get very carried away with lack of focus and also like emotional reactions to things. And so all of that just is so much more like calm and orderly when I do the daily practice. It just starts like putting everything back in its little egg carton of where the thoughts go so that I can chug along and the wheels on the bus can go forward. So it's pretty good stuff. And that's about hurrying. You can consciously try not to hurry. I've never done, like, I've learned mindfulness meditation, but I'm a little too like scatterbrained to do it very consistently. So I just do this thing where I write my fears and resentments, even if it's that I can't focus or meditate properly. I ask for it to be removed. I meditate a restful meditation, and it helps. So it works for me where I am. And it also works like sometimes people say, well, I'm just like in a really bad place. I'm going to wait till I have it all together. But that's like saying, I'm really hungry. I'm going to wait till I'm not hungry anymore to eat. And it's like, no, eat now. That's what food is for. It's to get in there and feed you. And that's what the daily practice is for, is to get in there and calm you wherever you happen to be. So you could try that. All right. Zach Buckler says, I value other people, but I struggle to value myself. And I struggle to see why people would value me. How do I value myself? I do see myself as a valuable person to other people. Okay, totally relate. I think we all have that. So this is what you do. You take the daily practice, which is where you put fear and resentment. And when you don't value yourself, that is resentment at yourself. I'm resentful at myself because I have fear. I'm no damn good. Fear I never made enough money, fear I'm ugly, fear I'm fat. I'm just telling you what mine are. I don't know about you. You might be skinny and gorgeous. um, so I just have fear about myself, and I take that and I ask for it to be removed. And if you haven't ever tried the daily practice, if you go sign up for it, you'll find I have a version you can do if you're a higher power person and a version you can do if you're not and you are relying on a higher self. My caveat is I don't have a higher self. Other people say they do, and they seem to get help from this method, but I appeal to something greater than myself to just like take this from me and help me become who I really am. That's where I'm trying to go with it. So all this self-hatred, it's probably not true. Some of it is true. Some of my self-attack is because there's stuff that I did that I don't feel good about. And I do the daily practice, and it helps me like just like offload all that just free floating gunk that's not even true or necessary to think about. And then what's left is one or two things I'm like, yeah, you know what? I actually owe an apology to somebody. Or, um, I've been resentful at myself about sleep. I just keep staying up too late and not getting enough sleep. And then I'm always tired. And I've been really writing a lot of fear and resentment about that and thinking about how it's like it's a way of controlling my life and controlling other people by being tired all the time. Like, I just don't want to be responsible. That's me. I don't know about you, but I was just like, all right, I'm just going to stop doing that. I'm just going to go to bed on time. Sometimes that's what it is. It's not rocket science. Okay, I see. I'm just shooting myself in the foot. I'll do it. I can't do very many things like that. I'm really bad with self-discipline, but when I have less fear and resentment, things fall into place better. I tend to favor what's good for me, what's healthy for me. It sounds attractive to me more. So when I didn't do the daily practice, I'd be attracted to bad people, bad food, bad sleep habits. That would sound good to me, and I would like the feeling of being sleep deprived, that numbed out feeling in my head. I liked it. It was like this cheap high or something. Well, I don't like it anymore. I like just feeling like a little more like lucid and calm. Feels good. Maybe part of that is age. Hey, yay, getting older. Yay. But getting older doesn't fix everything, as we know from looking around at the people older than us. Some of them are, pretty messed up, and they got worse over time. Let's not be them, okay? Let's open our hearts and soften our hearts and work on healing. So I couldn't quite get to everything here. Oh, narcissistic characteristics, Mary. Yeah, I got a video coming out about that. I'm making that today. We do it. We got it. It's good to face it. The more honest we can be with ourselves lovingly, the better. The more we can recover and connect with other people. And Jeanette says, why wouldn't a partner love us when we are so loving? Oh, because hardly anybody loves anybody. It's a partner's capacity to love is programmed by so many things other than ourselves. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I've probably had 30 relationships and I'm married to the one guy who really loves me. Phew, all those other ones. Phew, so glad I'm out of that. Doesn't have to do with how loving you are. It has to do with a lot of things. And it definitely, a stable relationship where you both love each other is going to be dependent a lot on you being recovered from the prickly behaviors of CPTSD, the difficult stuff. A lot of what we have is an inability to connect with other people, and healthy people sense that and they don't come our way. So we got to learn to connect with other people. Love will find you. Love will find you if you do the healing. It'll come. And a lot of times what you're going to practice first is being loving. But being loving in a relationship where you're not feeling loved back is not always love. It's clinging sometimes, or manipulation. Like, I'm so loving. Now love me back. Damn it. Love me back. Ah, I used to do that. So that's why I talk harshly about it. That's manipulation. It doesn't work. Can't make people love you. Love will just spontaneously come to them. It's kind of a miracle. I mean, I just couldn't even, my husband loves me so much, and I just, every once in a while, and he loves me more over time. And I didn't do that. I've definitely become more tedious over time. you know, he's been through a lot with me, but he loves me more over time because that's what's in his heart, and I don't know. I just kind of feel like when you make an honest effort and you relax a little bit, love can find you. But you got to make an honest effort, and you cannot make demands that people love you. Can't do it. All right. We're over time, but I'm just going to go just a teeny little bit here, stop a trigger in its tracks before it dysregulates me terribly. You carry your paper. Where is it? Okay, so see that? That goes with me everywhere. That and that. And if you do this twice a day, exactly as directed for 27 years, like me. No, if you do it twice a day, you'll start to get in the habit. You start to get in the habit of going, oh, here I go. And sometimes just knowing that you can turn it around. Sometimes you can't. But everything I teach in my courses, gosh, I haven't even mentioned it. Come to the courses. Okay. We have this discount today for you. It's not going out on the email list. Harry, if you wouldn't mind, just put the coupon code there. Any course or membership you can take today for 25% off. I always want to give like a perk to people who show up for my live call because you're so wonderful for doing that. We had a sale and you weren't on the mailing list, a lot of you, and I want you to know we had a sale. You can still have it, 25% off. There it is. 25 today. So when you go to buy something, you can't buy coaching. That's a different thing. You can't buy a monthly membership with this, but any course or an annual membership. So an annual membership is $499 for a year. You get all my courses. You get to come to twice a month group coaching calls. You get to be part of the Facebook group. We have discounts on some other workshops and stuff for you. So that's what you get with an annual membership, and you can renew too. I hope you will. But 25% off today. I think it's a pretty good deal. I mean, the coaching calls alone, I don't know. I love them. I think they're really valuable. I think they're good. So, I'm trying to get off, but Van Nocturne said, why do adults with childhood trauma tend to have morbid and macabre interests as adults? That is so funny that you ask that. Okay, it's only me and you. It's not everybody, but I do. And Harry, who's moderating here, he calls me Morticia Runkle sometimes because I'm so morbid that he has to remind me sometimes, and I just I can't look away from car accidents. And I used to take pictures of roadkill and find it so interesting. And then so many people in my life died that I consciously decided to stop getting all involved with death. It was just getting to be such a bummer. So I'm getting over it, but I really did have that. And also sad stories and sad music and sad everything. And part of my healing has been just kind of owning that and going, yeah, I like that stuff because It's something that acknowledges some of the pain that I have, but I'm done with that pain, and I try to, like, take my focus off the sad stories now. I don't deny them, but I try to move my focus onto something a little more positive. That's so funny. And the coupon, and Jay said, "Is that coupon good longer than just today?" No, it's not. It's just today. If you have some special need, write to us at hello@crappychildhoodfairy.com, and my team can talk to you about what it is that you need. So, the Halloween skull in your car, I love that. Oh my goodness. So great. I'm seeing all the questions here. I would love to talk to you all day, but I'm going to go. I'll be back. I do this at least once a month. And I thank you so much to those of you who answered questions here. Who gave the questions here for me to answer. I don't know if they're going to work as videos. I'm going to try. I just feel like what we do here is so great, and nobody wants to watch an hour-long live. But if you chop it up into 10 minutes of a concise answer, like, it'd be really good, right? That's what I think. I'm interested in your opinion about that. If there's topics you want me to cover, write to me, hello@crappychildhoodfairy.com. And also, if you have a question for Ask the Fairy, I haven't gotten any of those in a while since I was traveling. I don't answer all of them, and the main reason some of them don't get answered, if you've ever asked, it's because they're too long, or they're not a very clear question, or they're not really answerable. Like, why are people so evil? But if you have a question that's like a paragraph or two, and it's answerable, and you would like my opinion about it, send it in to hello@crappychildhoodfairy.com and put in the subject line "Ask the Fairy," and that will help us identify that and know that you've given your permission. I always hide the name of people. Sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed, but people on YouTube can be real jerks. And so when you ask a question, I also sometimes eliminate ones where I think somebody's just gonna, be treated badly by the mob out there. I can't totally catch all that. I do. When people say mean things, I delete it, or Kara does, but we can't always catch it. And sometimes, especially if it's down in a comment thread, we can't find it. But I'm so proud of this community. Like, this is a really kind community, part of because we curate it like that. We just don't put up with that. And every one of you who's gone in there and said something kind and supportive to others, thank you. You make this a healing place for everybody. So, yeah, if you can, come be a member. Membership is where there's, like, connection with me. That's where I am connected with the community, and I'm more likely to be answering questions, and, the group coaching calls are very powerful. So, if you wanna come in a little bit more to that inner circle, come be a member. This is the day that you can do that for cheap. Relatively a year. All the courses, you guys, all of them. Connection boot camp, healing childhood PTSD, dating and relationships, dysregulation boot camp, and the calls. So anyway, I feel like I should throw in some Ginsu knives here. But Harry's given you the code. Give it one more time if you would, Harry, and I'm going to say goodbye to you all and thank you. Thanks for being here. It's really nice talking to you. See you again soon.